Hey all you super players out there, Ben Lodice aka 5 Buck Lunch, coming at you with a preview for the new blue, green, and red tournament pack cards. We got some pretty interesting cards in here. They really went all out on having them support decks that are coming out in set 10. So we'll have to take a look, and I will do a video on the other two colors when we get them at the end of the week. So the first card we're looking at is Super Saiyan Blue Son Goku the Boundless. It's a 1-drop that has an auto. If your leader card is the Blue Trunks Future card, when this card is played, add one card from your energy to your hand and then place the top card of your deck in your energy in rest mode. The reason this card's so good is because for the Trunks Future deck that's coming in set 10, the whole point of the deck is you stack your life with cards that say when you take this life on your opponent's turn, it goes to your energy, and then at the end of your next turn, they get discarded. So what this allows you to do is stack that energy on your opponent's turn. Then on your turn, you can play this Goku, add that energy to your hand, and charge the top card. So essentially, you're going +1 energy. So even though it doesn't appear to, this card is actually ramping you. This is going to be very good. The Trunks Future deck, I tested around with it a little bit, and it definitely needs a little help. And this will help a lot. The ability to actually ramp in front of your opponent, as opposed to just temporary ramp, is very nice. Vegito the Fortifier. It's a 1-drop that have active battle once per turn. Choose one card in your hand and discard it. This card gets plus 10k power for the battle. At the end of the turn, switch one of your mono blue energy to active mode. This is pretty solid. I'm not entirely sure what deck wants it, but the ability to discard a card for an energy at the end of the turn seems like a pretty good rate. You draw a lot of cards in Dragon Ball Super, so there definitely is a place for this somewhere. I'm just not really sure where. SS2 Trunks Heroic Prospect. It's a 3-drop, counterattack. Negate the attack and play this card, and then permanent during your opponent's turn. If you have a blue Unison card in play, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 2, so he's a 1-cost negate the attack. Auto, when this card is played, and your opponent can't attack with battle cards with energy cost greater than their current energy for the turn unless they choose 2 cards in their hand and place them at the bottom of their deck in any order. So this is basically a conditional Topo. It's not as good as Topo, because it doesn't stop all attacks. It will probably be a side card, I would guess, for the most part, because of the fact that you need a Unison in play, and you need your and you need your opponent to be playing battle cards with energy cost higher than the energy they have. It's kind of specific. Like, it's very good against the decks it's very good against, but it's a conditional 1-cost negate that's a battle card against other ones, which I don't think is good enough. So my guess is this is going to be mostly a side card, but that being said, it is a very good side card. SSB Vegito, Soaring Blow. Union Potara, Blue Son Goku, and Blue Vegeta. Permanent, you can choose battle cards in your energy when choosing this card effect to union with. So that is a mechanic. There's a couple of Vegitos that do that in the set that do that same mechanic where you can union. The idea is that you stack your energy. When you take the life for the Trunks deck, they go to your energy, and then you can use those energy to union with, since they are going to be discarded at the end of your turn anyways. Auto, when this card is played, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards, place them at the bottom of their owner's decks in any order. This card isn't terrible, but the other Vegitos are better, is basically what it comes down to, so I don't imagine this is going to see a lot of play. The other Vegitos in the set do basically exactly the same thing, but they're better. Now we're into green cards with Swift Massacre Frieza. It's a 4-drop with Deflect. When this card is played from your hand, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and KO it. Permanent, if you have 5 or more green battle cards in your drop area, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. This card is pretty solid. It's kind of just a generically good card. It basically becomes a 3 specific cost, 20k, deflect, remove any problem card. Kills ignoring barrier, which is very good. It's basically going to see play in mono green decks, pretty generically. It's probably one of the best rated destruction, ignoring everything. That being said, we have cards like the Kakuznik Negate and a lot of other things that do similar stuff. So we'll have to see. If a mono green deck becomes very popular, this card could see maybe as a 2-of in it, just to get rid of like big problem cards. It does have Deflect, which helps a lot. Dodoria the Boastful, 1-drop. Active main once per turn. This card gets plus 11k power for the turn. So basically on your turn it's a 15k, on your opponent's turn it's a 4k. Auto, if your leader card is a green Frieza card, when this card is KO'd, add up to 1 green Unison card, specified cost of 2 from your drop area to your hand. So it's basically just a way to grab back Unisons. I don't think it's a good way though, because you have to either find a way to self-KO it, or your opponent gets to choose when it dies. So I'm pretty sure this is just not a very good card, unfortunately. Ginyu, Captain of the Elite, 3-drop, counter, negate the attack and play this card, and then permanent, if you have a green Unison player, reduce the energy cost of your hand by 2. So I'm guessing this is going to be a full cycle where each color is going to have a 3 cost that reduces to a 1 cost if you have Unison play negates. Auto when this card is played, add up to 1 green Frieza's army card with 9,000 power or less from your drop right in your hand, and if you did, choose 1 card in your hand and discard it. It's okay. It doesn't actually net card advantage, just like the other one. It's pretty mediocre. I don't really think this is going to see a ton of play. Maybe in like very specific, like Frieza's Army Ginyu Force decks, but that's about it. Zarbon, Cosmic Elite. 2-drop blocker, active main, for 1 green, choose 1 green card in your hand and discard it. Play this card from your drop area. If your opponent has 5 or more cards in their hand, when this card is removed from the battle area by a skill or KO'd, if your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and discards it. So this is interesting. I actually think this card's pretty good. The reason for that is, if this card just said active main for a green, choose 1 green card in your hand, discard it, play this card from your drop area, this card wouldn't be terrible. You get 2 cost for Successor for 1 energy, which isn't terrible. Also, a lot of like the U11 decks and things like that could probably use this as ways to discard things and then get back a green battle card that is also a blocker, which is nice. Also, decks that want to protect themselves and protect their Unisons, it's a blocker for 1 green. At any point, you can do things like discard Apes, discard Rebrands. So that in itself isn't terrible. But the addition of the ability to discard is also like very nice. Now, it's a very, very weak discard because the opponent has to have more than 5 cards in their hand. And if they're going to be attacked, if you're not removing it with your own skill, they get to pick when they discard. So a lot of times they're going to go down below 5 cards, especially against a discard deck, and then kill this. And your opponent gets to choose what card they discard. So it's probably like 3 forms of the weakest discard, but because it's on such a free card, I think it's okay. So I think this card will see play. It's got a lot of good things going for it without it being unfair at all. It's probably a pretty solid like turn 1, turn 2 play. It could be even in like the Surge Cell deck, because it's something you can discard and then recur advantage with later while discarding things you want in your drop. So yeah, pretty solid card all around. Now we're on to the red. Yamcha the Lawless. It's a 2-drop. Auto, if your leader card is a red Earthling card, at the end of your turn, draw a card. Active battle once per turn for 2 red. This card gets plus 15k power and double strike for the battle. I think this card is really good, actually. It's definitely going to see play in a lot of red Earthling decks. The fact that it just draws a card recursive and it's like very flexible. For example, you can attack with it early in the game, like on turn 2. If 15k is relatively difficult to get rid of on turn 2, so you're going to get your card, and once this card has gotten 2 cards, it's automatically like so much advantage in your favor, because that means you've gotten 2 attacks with it and drawn 2 cards, so that's usually a 4-card swing. So also it has, later in the game if you want to play it, for 4 you can basically play it as a 30k double striker, which is not bad at all either. So yeah, this card's very good and is definitely going to see play. It's a little narrow, but there's a lot of good red Earthling leaders now. There's 2 good red Earthling leaders in this set alone, and you have things like Hercule from past sets that are also very good. And I think Pan is also an Earthling as well. So there's lots of decks this can go into that are like very on the border competitive leaders. So yeah, we'll have to see. This is definitely one of the better cards, I think. Pilaf, Innovated Emperor. 2-drop. When this card is placed in the drop area from battle area by a skill, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards. They get minus 10k power for the turn. I mean, this is solid. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's not amazing. It's kind of an effect we've seen before. Probably won't see too much play, but it's interesting. Son Goku the Pure-Hearted. 3-drop for 3 specific red. Has Deflect. If your leader card is a red Earthling card and you can place 1 card from your life in your drop area, then add card from your 1 life. Son Goku the Pure-Hearted. It's a 3-drop, 3 specific red. Has Deflect. If your leader card is a red Earthling card, and you place 1 card from your life in your drop area, then add 1 card from your life to your hand. It's kind of a mouthful of a cost. When this card attacks a battle card, deal 1 damage to your opponent. So, in layman's terms, what this does is you crit 1 of your life, you add 1 of your life to your hand, you deal 1 damage to your opponent. So it's a 2-for-1 on life. In red rush decks, though, that's actually usually a pretty okay. It's a lot like the red-green secret rare, where you do 2 damage to yourself, or damage to yourself, deal 2 to them, except it's reversed. Red does a lot of like dealing damage to yourself to deal damage to your opponent. This is especially good in the Yamcha deck because it's probably the easiest way to trigger your deal 1 damage Yamcha effect, which turns this into a 2 damage for 2, which most of the time is just going to be good enough to be good, especially on turn 3. This card is actually pretty scary. The fact that it has Deflect as well makes it actually very hard to stop. And all it has to do is attack a battle card. Now you can defend from that by not putting your battle cards, not attacking with your battle cards, keeping them untapped, doing things like that. But there's a lot of ways to get around that for the red player as well, so there's a little bit of counterplay there. That being said, this card is very good and we'll definitely see some play. But that's all we've got so far. We should get the other 2 colors by the end of the week, and I will do a video on those. But yeah, there's actually a lot more interesting here than... There's nothing like obscenely overpowered. There's no like Turles or anything like that. But there's a lot of cards that will definitely see play in decks, which is very interesting. So yeah, go out there, play some Super, and have some fun.